Have you ever heard of the soup study? So this is a very interesting study. There was two groups, the control group and the test group. And both groups of people ate bowls of soup. Not very interesting. But the test group, they had hidden tubes in the bottom of their bowls of soup that replenished the soup as it was consumed. Now, the interesting thing is the test group, they consumed way more soup than the control. And the more interesting thing is they didn't feel any more full and satisfied than the control group. In other words, we're all on the seafood diet. We see food and then we eat food. This is why it's so important that we control our portions and don't consume food directly from the package. And this also applies to drinks. So like quick story, Panera Bread, last year, 2023, I think they came out with their charged lemonades and they are very good, but they're so full of sugar. And so I remember I went to Panera. I only live about 8 minutes away from one and got a cup or I guess a large cup of their lemonade. And I had the straw in there. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to have this all at once. I'm going to break it up and pour a little bit and drink a little bit here and there. That way I spread the calories out. That was the plan. I get in my car, put my drink down next to me, and I'm not even halfway home. Again, I said, I only live 8 minutes away from a Panera Bread. Do you know this thing was like halfway empty? Yeah, I drank half of it before I even got halfway home. And that was because my portions weren't controlled. I was drinking directly from the large cup. That shows why it's so important to control our portions. All right, so it's so important. We know it's important to control portions, but how do we actually do that? So the first thing to do is to decide like what's important. What's the ultimate goal? So for me and my clients, our ultimate goal is to have a fat loss transformation and improve our heart health. Now, with that in mind, the next step is to consider what food categories we want to actually have on our plate. And for me and my clients, that would mean we want to have a plate that has fiber, protein, and whole grains and carbs. Our ideal portions would look something like this on your screen right now. As you can see, we have our fiber, our protein, and our whole grains and carbs. And when it comes to fiber, high fiber foods include things like legumes, fruit, and vegetables. Some of my favorites include apples, broccoli, kiwi, green peas, black beans, garbanzo beans or chickpeas, and sweet potatoes, just to name a few. The next category that I like to have on my plate is protein. I aim to have my protein come from lean cuts of meat, seafood, and from low-fat dairy. My favorites include Greek yogurt and salmon. Now, a tip for Greek yogurt, it can be very tart, especially if you're doing low-fat, unsweetened Greek yogurt. It can taste the best, but you can help with that tartness by adding a low-calorie sweetener. I like to use Truvia's. It's a stevia and erythritol blend. The next category we want to have on our plate would be whole grains and carbs. Whole grains would include things like brown rice, oats, whole wheat, and quinoa. Healthy carbs would include things like legumes, beans, lentils, peas, fruits, and vegetables. Now, one thing I didn't mention as a category that we're aiming to have on our plate would be fat. It's not to say you don't have any fat at all, but my goal is to just get my fat mainly from the fat and oil used for cooking and in dressings, so like a salad dressing. Another source of fat would be from the protein sources like the animal meats or seafood. And the healthiest sources of fat would come from seafood, nuts, and seeds. We've learned why portion control is so important and figured out what type of food categories we want to have included on our plate. But the next step is to figure out how do we actually apply this to our real lives. To do that, you want to use actual small plates or small bowls if that's what you're using. There's only so much food you can include on a small plate and a small bowl. That alone will cut down your portions. Now, I know, look, it might be weird to think, all right, I'm going to have beans and vegetables for breakfast. Yeah, it's fine. What's weird is all relative. There's parts in the world where having beans and vegetables for breakfast is the total norm. Now, when it comes to protein, to figure out how much protein you actually need to have on your plate, let's imagine we have a 200-pound person. This person gets most of their protein from meat. This person would need about 17 ounces of meat per day. If they're spreading that out over 3 meals, that would be about 5 ounces of meat per meal. And 5 ounces would be about the size of your palm. So that's a visual that you can use as a reference for the amount of meat you put on your plate. And remember, this is for a 200-pound person. So if you weigh a little bit more, you may need a little bit more. If you weigh less, then you may need a little less. And if we want to accommodate for the different palm sizes we have, just remember that 5 ounces is about the size of 2 decks of cards. Now, what if you're at a restaurant? You can't control your portions at a restaurant. What you can do is when you put in your order, tell the waiter that you would like half of your food to be packaged to go and then the other half brought out to you. So that way you're not tempted with bigger portions and you want seafood and heat food. Another idea would be to just split your meal with someone else, go halvesies. That will cut down your portion. All right, so those are all my tips. Did I forget anything? Can you think of anything? If so, drop it in the comments. If not, let me know in the comments which of these tips that I gave you do you plan on implementing first. Drop a comment, let me know. Thank you for watching.